Howdy, folks. I'm Dastardly Draft, deftly drifting over dour denizens.
I'm Amber.
And here are more dour denizens for us to drift over, and I guess that's what you do when you're a draft. So let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Telling My Husband that I'm going back on our agreement and I don't care if he cries about it? My husband and I, both 32, have been together since we were 19. Our relationship feels like it just blew up in my face, basically, and I can't tell if I'm overreacting. So we both wanted one child, and we have planned this for years. We wanted everything perfect first. The home, the careers, the saving, the investments, the nest egg, etc., 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 because we both knew from very early on that once we had a baby, that I would be staying home full time and raising our child. His brother's life was unfortunately cut short by a daycare worker when he was just 5 months old back in 2017. So daycare wasn't an option, and basically we needed to make sure that our ducks were in a row so that I could stay home and be a full-time parent. Well, 2 years ago, we were sitting on $500,000 investments, a few nest eggs in different types of savings and bond accounts, and we bought a house, and we even bought a boat. Everything that we had planned for fell into place, finally, and we started trying for a baby. Now we have a perfect 4-week-old daughter. I have been out of work since I was 5 months pregnant due to a placental abruption, but otherwise, everything went fine. She's perfectly healthy, was a good weight, and I bounced back from the delivery fairly quickly because of how much of a support system I had in my husband. He did more than his fair share while still working full time, which is partially why I can't tell if I'm being dramatic or if this is hormones or postpartum depression or whatever. Like, I'm legitimately livid. So basically, earlier this afternoon, I get a phone call from the Department of Health and Human Services to go over health insurance options and whether or not the baby is eligible for state insurance based off of our income. I had already given the Department of Health and Human Services all of our information, social security numbers, date of birth, etc., etc., etc. When they called yesterday and was just waiting for all of our info and assets to be pulled. Anyways, she calls and says that we aren't eligible because my husband makes too much money and that we need to add her to our private insurance. Absolutely no problem at all. I kind of figured anyways, but then she offhandedly mentions that my husband is making $10,920 monthly gross, and that the cutoff for our state insurance is $7,830 monthly gross. Well, here's the issue. For months, my husband has been telling me that he only makes $6,000 a month after taxes. So I get off the phone and I take a look into my husband's computer and into his banking, and sure enough, his monthly take home is bordering around $8,500. He is transferring everything over $6,000 into an account that I didn't even know existed. So I call him out on it, and he just breaks down and tells me that he just wanted something that was only his. Please keep in mind that all of my money has always gone into our joint account that he uses on a daily basis. So he is hiding money from me so that he can have his own money while plugging away at mine. Over $45,000 he has sitting in that account, while telling me just last week that we couldn't have steak dinner because spending $38 on 2 steaks was a waste of money. So I told him that I'm putting the baby into daycare and going back to work because obviously I need to safeguard myself if he is hiding money away. Something feels off about it, and I don't know. He instantly started crying, see above, daycare trauma. But I truly just don't trust him financially anymore. I no longer feel secure here, and I said that I changed my mind and I don't care if he cries about it. So am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, absolutely not the jerk. If he is able to have his own money that is only his, you deserve to have your own money that is only yours. It would have been one thing if you both had agreed from the outset that you could have your own separate finances. There's nothing wrong with having separate finances if both partners are aware of it. The problem is he's had a secret fund he's been squirreling money away into that OP had no knowledge of, and OP does not have an income or any separate account of her own.
Like, what was he expecting to happen with this money, right? Like, I'm really curious about what he wanted to spend this money on that he couldn't talk to OP about, right?
I mean, his dad had one of these funds for his mistress.
Yeah, is that what happens in the comments?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that doesn't sound very good or comforting.
I mean, his dad spent it all though on the mistress. He hasn't touched it, which is the part that makes Opie be like, okay, he's not cheating because he's not spending it, but does
Hmm.
give her a lot of pause that he has a secret account.
Yeah, well, this might have been something that his dad imparted upon him and said, you always need to have a secret account of money type of thing, right? The thing is that if they agree to joint accounts, then they agree to joint accounts, right? And you need to trust your partner that they're going to contribute to those joint accounts. It's fine not to have joint accounts, and it's fine to have fund money of your own, but that needs to be something that's agreed upon for both parties, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like it can be actually a really good thing for both of you to have some money that the other person can't touch. That can be a good, but again, if one partner is secretly squirreling away money while the other partner has no money of their own, that's a problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that OP is very justified in this particular case, and I don't blame them at all because this is something that raises a lot of questions and raises a lot of red flags, especially given the history of his dad and doing the exact same thing, right?
Well, if he doesn't want the kid in daycare, he can stay home and take care of the kid.
And that's
Like
a good point too, right? Although they might not be able to afford their lifestyle.
they might not be able to. They might have to make sacrifices depending on how much OP's job brings in. But it doesn't feel right that he gets to have all this money to himself and OP has nothing to her name if he does cheat on her and kick her out.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, I'm a 24-year-old female and my boyfriend, a 24-year-old male, called the cops on me because of the content of my book. But he wants me to think that it was a mistake. How do we move past this? And Amber wants to read this one.
I'm a 24-year-old female and I've been working on my book trilogy for years, since I was 16. The book is how I met my boyfriend, John, a 24-year-old male. We met at some writing class 3 years ago and hit it off. John went to university for journalism and creative writing, but is not working in either field. I never intended to make money for my works, but I do. It's not my main profession, though. Context out of the way, here's where things get weird. I asked John if he could read certain chapters and give notes on things to change and adapt. My usual beta reader was unavailable. Without giving too much away, the main character gets kidnapped and experimented on. It was written to be grotesque and horrifying, and I told John this before he started reading. He said he'd be fine. Well, I find out he made a call to the local police department because the description sounded too real and there was non-consensual stuff in the chapter. Not essay. The experimentation was not consented to by the main character. He didn't tell me he made the call. I found out because an officer came to my door the next morning for a welfare check. I was humiliated. I explained everything immediately and they checked the house, saw nothing, and eventually apologized for the confusion. When I confronted John, he apologized and tried to say the story got in his head. He said it was a mistake and that I should understand how someone could get worried given the content. He just wants me to drop it. I am so embarrassed and honestly really creeped out. My writing is dark, but I've been publishing for years and he's read my material before. This was honestly not even the darkest, most messed up thing I've written. I don't know if this is something we can work through or if this is a sign of a deeper issue. I genuinely can't imagine why he'd call the cops if he was so disturbed, but also stay at my place and be all lovey and cuddly. Could this be an honest mistake, and how do we move forward? Edit, when I say he made a mistake, I'm referring to calling the police as a misjudgment on his end, not that he literally didn't mean to call the police. All right, what do we think?
I think that OP shouldn't take his his answer at face value here. I mean, it could be that he was so creeped out. This might actually be a compliment. He was so creeped out by the book that he thought that OP was truly a deranged individual with bodies in their basement or something like that. Maybe that's the best read of this situation, the most charitable read on his part.
Oh, darn it. I haven't had the police call on me yet. I guess my writing's just not creepy enough.
Well, I guess not. I guess you'll have to work on that some. The thing is that making a welfare check on somebody like this is a pretty extreme thing to do. And I think that OP is right to be upset by this because what else might he do in the future, right? Like if he can't be a supportive partner and support OP's, hobbies like this, then I don't know. That doesn't really bode well for me. At the very least, OP should never let him read another one of her books again, right?
Well, the biggest red flag here for me, oops, sorry. the biggest red flag here for me is that he was still being lovey and cuddly to OP. Like, if you are genuinely disturbed by the content someone writes, you're probably going to want to distance yourself. Like, oh, hey, I have to go wash my cat. See ya.
No, I mean, actually, I can understand the reasoning behind this, right? Like, so suppose you're working in an office with a guy or girl who you think is going to snap at the very last moment. Do you give them a Snicker bar every single day to make sure that when they finally do snap, that you aren't the person that they come for? And the answer is yes, you most certainly do. And the same thing goes for this case. And this is why we make sure to give Amber all the affection. I'm just kidding. Amber's not going to. So no, I mean, the strategy, Amber, the strategic thinking here. You have to be in the strategy head here.
I guess I'm just not strategic enough. But I would not continue this relationship if I were OP. I would be concerned. It could be that he was genuinely so disturbed and just using the lovey cuddly stuff to like throw her off. But I'm wondering if he's trying to get her mental state questioned. Like, it could be a manipulation and control tactic.
Yeah. Well, and that might actually be a really good point, because later on in the future, if they are together, then like he can, like, there are ways that you can get someone Baker acted, for instance, right? And if they have a history of welfare checks and other things, then that might be a point against her in that respect, right?
I mean, this is really cynical, but it could be a long con where he, waits until she gets really successful and then pulls out this, oh, look, she's not stable. I have to take over everything.
Yeah. And that could be the case too. What a horror story that would be.
Yeah.
Somebody should write that.
I'm sure it's been written many times.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Trying to Get My Classmates a Failing Grade? This happened a couple of years ago, but it's still on my mind. I, then a 24-year-old female, was in a computer programming class. We were 12 in total. We received a group assignment, 2 groups of 6, that required us to write a program and make a presentation about the program that we made. Both the presentation and the program would be graded equally. My team was me and 5 male students. This will sound braggy, but I was and am very good at programming. It came naturally, so it was decided that I would write the program and they would work on the presentation. I didn't really mind. I was really good and quick. They filled me in on the presentation and I learned my part and eventually represented. During my part of the presentation, one of my classmates interrupted me after only 1 minute of me speaking and finished my part of the presentation. I couldn't take part in any of the other remaining presentation because I hadn't learned the rest. The next day, we received our grades, and I received a failing grade of 50%, while the others got an 80%. The teacher said it was because I failed the presentation part. Now, in this class, you can only get 1 failing grade. Second fail, you are removed from the program. No refund, $12,000 class. So, this was really scary. My teammates felt bad and encouraged me that I would be okay because I'm good, so they doubted that I would get another failing grade. To me, this was unjust. I was livid. I told the teacher that if I fail, the rest of the team should get a 0 on the programming part because I wrote 100% of the code. I would accept the failing grade if they also got a failing grade. My teacher fought me on this. He had no proof that they did nothing, and they wouldn't speak up. My teammates said that I was being a B-word, but I wouldn't back down. I wanted a fair grade. I also mentioned that one of the other people on the team barely said a word during the presentation, but it was overlooked because they were an immigrant and a company won't be hiring them to do presentations, just coding, so the presentation part didn't matter as much for this particular student. I didn't care. Either we were all graded fairly and we all fail, or he gives us all the same leeway. Teacher wouldn't budge. I took it to the higher-ups, and it was proven that my teammates wrote nothing. They couldn't recall any of the functions, they couldn't specify which part they wrote, and they didn't understand the flow. The teacher admitted that the other student said almost nothing. My 1-minute presentation was longer than their part of the presentation, but that was overlooked. They finally relented and gave me a passing grade rather than fail half the class. Classmates said that it was a jerk move, but I stood my ground. I feel bad because they had become friends and I didn't want anyone to fail, but it just felt unjust. And the reason I mentioned the genders at the beginning is because at the time, this was a very male-dominated industry. I had been dealing with the sexist jokes during the school year, and this felt like another time I was being brushed aside due to my gender. Was I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
Absolutely not the jerk. You weren't trying to make your classmates fail. You were trying to get a fair grade. The teacher was being very unjust and biased here. OP says in the comments that like the teacher, it sounds like already had it out for her because she'd called him out before on making sexist jokes about women's sports. And so he just wanted an excuse to fail OP is what it boils down to. And OP did the right thing. She proved that she did the coding. And if they're going to grade everyone based on their contributions to particular parts, her classmates shouldn't be awarded a grade for the code when they had no hand in it.
Yeah, I mean, how sexist is it that they're saying this other student who isn't going to be and xenophobic, right? That this other student isn't going to be required to give presentations, right? Like that's just absurd. And so like the most important part of the job for OP is what the teacher is saying is that they're going to be required to do presentations on the code. That's what they're saying by this, right?
Exactly. Well, because OP is a woman and you have to be a pretty face and that's all you are.
So her whole coding of this thing was just completely like disregarded. And that one student who didn't do anything still got a passing grade after all of this. I mean, I think that's a bit unfair. Like, not only did they not do any of the presentation, they also didn't do any of the coding.
Well, I think they were in the other group, not OP's group.
Oh, the other group. Okay. So, but that was still overlooked, right? And the fact is, like, that's just absurd. And I think that this school has a lot of issues if they're running programs like this in general.
Well, that's the thing is, like, you have to have a clear rubric that you are grading everyone by when you're running a class. You can't just be like, well, I feel like this student isn't going to have to do presentations in the real world. That's not something you know. That is just, and so I think you need to have a clear, consistent rubric and grade everyone according to it.
Well, I agree on that. And I think, again, the teacher was being unfair. So, but let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. And Amber, she has a joke.
Why can't you trust a mountain with a hole in it to make a good decision?
Because they'll cave under any kind of pressure.
Yeah, because it caved in.
Ah.
And it's International Mountain Day.
Oh.
And it's also Noodle Ring Day, as in like SpaghettiOs and the like.
I was just thinking like pool noodles. I don't know why. So don't eat pool noodles, please. Unless they're made of like pasta, but then probably still don't eat it because like pasta left out overnight and stuff like that is just not good for you. It'll make you sick. So don't do that, please. But yeah. And I have a special guest tea. This one is the Shirley Temple tea again from David's Tea. It's very tart. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Friday, Junior.
Happy Friday, Junior.
Thanks so much to Amber for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it hodgepodge for Hodgepodge Thursday.
Just don't mistreat people. Like, grade your students fairly. Don't stash away your own secret cash hoard while like taking all of your partner's money. And it's okay to call wellness checks when they are genuinely needed, but do not use them as a manipulation tactic.
Yeah. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.